Welcome back to the Lucky Seven. This is our seventh episode, Siobhan.
Hmm.
Kathy O'Reilly and Siobhan Walsh, and we are on two coaches and one couch.
And welcome back.
And our topic today is going to be an interesting one because we've been rambling on and talking about this for so long. Such an important subject, I think. Self-regulation, our new superpower.
Hmm.
So let's look at it. And what do you think of all of that? I suppose the first thing that comes up for me, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to share this to get us kicked off, is about self-regulation and what it's not first. Because, I just really believe that like we are so busy 90% of the time. We are rolling all the balls in the air. And if you're a woman and you're out there, men too, of course, but we're talking to the women in this one, really, I am anyway. Is it like, you're either, you're a wife, a mother, a girlfriend, a partner, a daughter-in-law, a separated woman. Years ago, the old saying was, she's living on her nerves. And you would be actually living on your nerves. And that is somebody that's so conditioned to being dysregulated. They don't even know what being regulated actually looks like. They don't know what it feels like. And it's only when they step back and really take time to breathe that they sort of maybe come to somebody like you and I, or they go to somebody else and they start looking at their lives more closely and unpacking what's happening for them. And in that time is the first time maybe in their lives that they realize this is kind of almost like crazy manic behavior. You know what I mean? And the dysregulated part for them is habitual. So the body is always in fight or flight. It's ready, ready, ready. And when they come to me or to you, or from myself when I started my training first, and looked at like what it was like to just find that place where you can breathe and do that moment of precious pause before you jump into being all things to everybody. So I suppose today we're looking at regulation and self-regulation and being deregulated. And of course, we all know that if we can regulate well our nervous system, it is our superpower. That's the
Hmm.
reality of it, because now suddenly, no matter what situation you are in, you're in a position where you can take a step back and you can do it in your terms. And that's the difference, really. What do you think?
What do I think of you? I think you're great.
What do you think of that whole concept, though?
Self-regulation.
Yeah.
I think self-regulation is so important, but many people are going
Mm.
around not knowing. And again, I'm all for these. It's really, it's a common theme that people are talking about at the moment. And people are like, what do you mean self-regulation? But what self-regulation actually is the ability to manage any emotion that you're feeling, whether it be overwhelm, whether it be, and we're dealing with people all the time. We're dealing with different energies. You can't get away from different people. It's constant, whether people are nice or not nice, you're always in the energy field. And when you're activated in that, it's a way of regulating what is coming up in that
I
moment.
suppose what comes up for me really is knowing like what it feels like to be dysregulated, though, because I think that's very important. Because honestly, I can honestly say with my hand on my heart, and I'm a long, long time in this world, a lot longer than you are. But I know that I have experienced that place as being normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was normal for
absolutely.
me to live on high alert, go, go, go,
Mm.
do, and meet everybody's needs.
Mm.
And I actually didn't know what it was. I was
Mm.
just doing it all the time. And I think most people, I would say most people that I meet in my room, or most people I meet, they are living in a place of just existing out of a being dysregulated nervous system.
Yeah. Do you
And
want
until
to?
you recognize that, you can't really change it. You can't
Mm.
regulate until you know that you are actually in a place of being dysregulated.
Mm. Do you want to? Well, I can actually just talk briefly on the types of dysregulation. So people say, oh, I'm in survival mode. And what that actually is you're either on, so people fight, you're on flight, you're on fawn, you're on flop, you're on freeze. So people can regulate or dysregulate, sorry, in those ways. It's what's your instinct to do. So some people freeze when they're, faced with loads of things to do. Some people will, soothe. There's so many different ways when people do become dysregulated and people just on the go. So it's ways of managing those and how that looks for people who go off and work too much. Like there's people, like you say, are just existing, and not knowing how to manage and how to regulate. But that can be very normal for people, like you said. That's you spend your whole life in that state. You know, they're called different states.
Mm. And I suppose you see what's coming up for me there, like, and I'm going to share this, that like I would have been surrounded, I would have grown up in a family where, like, I mean, you know, it wouldn't have, I won't say it wouldn't get permission to be idle, but it
Mm.
wouldn't have been seen as something that you would do lightly. Do you know? I mean, we were expected to be busy. So, like, I mean, you know, we came from a home where life was quite busy. And
Mm.
I'm being honest, I'm going to say it straight out, it was a bit chaotic too, you know. So, like,
Mm.
you know, you learn from a very young age that that's your normal way of being until you know that you don't have to be like that. You know, when you're in the world of therapy and you work in the area that we work, we've examined ourselves, we've gone to loads and loads of therapy sessions to become therapists, or coaches, or you know, trauma specialists. But the reality at the end of the day is that until you pull yourself out of that, you're never going to know that there's a different way.
Mm.
That's where it's important to come and look. But it is important that there is another way of being in the world and there is another way of doing it.
Mm. And the way that that comes up is noticing, okay, so why people do think, oh God, and my heart is racing here, I'm sweating, I'm getting really annoyed and cross. Like they're the signals that you are dysregulated, like what's actually happening in those moments.
It's more, to me, I'm only sharing. It sounds a little bit more panic attacky. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about just living out of a place where you never stop. Do you know? And I think
Mm.
that, like, again, you mentioned noticing, and this is all about noticing and awareness. Awareness of your life, awareness of how you live, awareness of you, how you are day in, day out, moment by moment. And, you know, the thing about it is that it's beautiful when you start to see it more clearly and you take off the, you know, the blinkers and you start seeing your life more clearly. But it does take a bit of getting, it does take new ways of being, and it does leave the old part of you go, which may not suit everybody, because sometimes that people pleaser part of you
Mm.
is the part of you that you just feel I'm useful. You know, I mean, why would I change that? They all like me.
Mm. We've spoken about this before, like the different roles and how people operate in families and stuff like that. So that kind of part of, oh, I've always been taught to do, or to, you know, survive, or just get on with things, as opposed to actually thinking, well, actually, no, this is stressing me out, or it's, you
Hmm.
know, creating chaos for me. But and it's all depends how you've been brought up, how you are and how you operate. But the dysregulation part, how would you think then it shows up in someone, or why would you feel the need to say to someone, I need to regulate that? Like what symptoms come up? Because you said to me that that's like noticing like a panicky feeling. So
Hmm.
what would you feel
Hmm.
that that is, or
Well,
how would it come into your room?
I suppose how it would affect, and I'm going to use myself as an example. Business had a lot of people employed, a couple of kids were my two sons. Mother-in-law, my mother was aging, quite demanding at the time, poor old man. Myself and Neil would have a good marriage, but I always felt I needed to please him too, though. There was a part of me that needed to please him.
Mm.
Now looking back on it, I go, "What were you thinking, you fool of a woman?" But I mean, I was in that. That's the way the mind. That's the way I was reared to think. So I suppose what I would say was my way of now looking back on being dysregulated was kind of walking on eggshells would have been my one. I felt walking on eggshells, you know. I was always checking to see was everybody okay with me. Now,
Mm.
you could say we're all like that, but I'm talking about doing it in such a way that it becomes so big that I was way down the line. I was down the bottom of the line here. I mean, I didn't even think about how tired I was, how worn down I was, how frazzled I was.
Mm.
I was just, again, Friday night coming, or Saturday night for me because I worked on Saturdays, down to the pub, throw the 20 Rothmans up on the table, big gang of people getting plastered. If that was the case, now I
Did you
mean,
smoke, Kathy?
oh, listen, I didn't really. No, I
Oh,
have to be
okay.
honest with you, I didn't. But I
Oh,
puffed away the same as the rest of them. You know, woke up the following morning with Solbit, Nexium,
oh
every kind
God.
of fucking thing you could help. You know,
Mm.
just living out of a place where something had to happen to let a bit of a release in. So,
Mm.
you know what I mean? So, like, looking back at it, we all did that. That
Yeah.
was the blowout of the weekend. Do you
Hmm.
know? So, and then you got up and you got going again and you worked again the whole week through. It sounds
Hmm.
terrible, but I was doing it.
Mm.
And I mean, I think that everybody I knew actually was doing that same
Mm.
thing. I
Mm.
wasn't the only one.
No, no.
We're all doing it.
Mm.
So I suppose to me, like, the difference when you actually stand back and look at it, everything is paced differently.
Mm.
Your mindset, your thinking is paced. You stop and think, oh, Jesus, that's a bit much, you know. Whereas when you're not really thinking of yourself and you're way down the pecking order, you're first in and last out in every situation. And
Mm.
walking on eggshells is the best way to describe it.
Mm.
If I'm not enough, what'll happen?
Yeah. So just circling back to the question, when was it the first, when did you think, oh, I need to change this? Or when did you start to say, oh, okay, what was it that switched, that
I
I need to
suppose for
start
me,
regulating myself?
to be honest with you, I would have been like, I have to be honest about this. I talk a lot to my clients about responding well by breathing into the body and just standing back and taking that moment to think, let me think about this before I answer. Let me just stop for a moment and think, how am I going to approach this? How is this going to affect me? Now, you do it so often and you make a habit of doing this that it becomes second nature, that you just think before you speak. But I mean, when I wasn't like that and I hadn't this done, I probably would have been very reactive.
Mm.
I always felt wrong. I was always apologizing for that then as well. Do you know, I was kind of going, I'm sorry,
Mm.
I didn't mean that. Or can I make up to you in some way? Can I do
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah.
I mean, I always knew that there was something could have been different than that. Now, how it changed for me was absolutely my training, to be honest.
Oh, right,
You know,
okay.
when I started the coaching program way back, I mean, anyone that knew me would have said, Jesus, I never saw Kathy like that. But I knew me
Yeah,
inside.
of course.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
So I would say that the training probably was the beginning of my change,
Mm.
you know?
Mm.
I hadn't gone to a therapist or I hadn't gone to a counselor. I hadn't gone to anybody before that. So maybe if I'd had done that, it would have been different without the training.
Mm. Yeah. And what skills did you learn then, let's say, with the training? So to start to regulate yourself. So what would you use now with yourself maybe, or with clients that you'd suggest or use yourself to regulate?
Well, now, if you're asking me, there are two sides to that. What would I do with my clients? Well, the first thing I always do with my clients is I always want to know about their childhood, because
Mm.
childhood, it starts in the home. Everything starts in the beginning. What was your life like in the beginning? And we learn to behave a certain way from the people that brought us into the world, from the siblings, from our environments. I mean, I really believe that. So I always go back to that. And then from the point of view working with the client, I always try to look at it from the point of view that what, because once you start unpacking and unraveling that piece, the next piece seems to come very, very naturally. Oh, Jesus, that was tough. All right, let's look at that. What was that like? So now we can start to look at how life is different, because really it's kind of locked in there until it's looked at. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's what I would do with the client always. And I mean, your 3 or 4 sessions usually gets them out the other end of knowing themselves better. And from there, they can develop, because now they've opened the can of worms and they can actually move forward. So that's one part of it, I suppose. The second part of the question you asked me there, you said to me, what would you say you would do? That was really what I did for myself, to be honest, because when I started my training, we did look at that. And and I often said this, and I've said this, I think, in the podcast before. When I started my training, like there were times I wanted to kick the door down, because I thought, you have been so sort of, you know, a
Lied
people
to.
pleaser for so long. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? That
Mm.
like I felt I'd been taken advantage of, but that was my time to be that person at then. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
That was really the beginning of the change, if you know what I mean. The change.
Mm.
And it took a while. It wasn't an overnight job, because it takes years to build it up and it takes a bit of time to bring it down.
Thanks, Kathy, for sharing that.
So what's coming up for you now? I feel as if I've done all the talking.
That's fine, Kathy. We each have our moment.
No.
What's coming up for me? I think it's such a huge topic. So, like, people self-soothe and use all different types of coping mechanisms. And, it is all in the childhood. I deal with people who've had, it's not just a few sessions, it might take years to come out of, and it's really important that when I'm working with people specifically, how I am with them as well. So, because we're always mirroring each other. So I have to make sure that I'm regulated before I'm with a client, and it might not even be, it could just be doing some breathing. It could just be placing the hand on the heart, the connection with the body. Like that's a good way of, regulating yourself, just bringing back into the present moment. So there's all these different ways. And like for myself, I do so many of these. Like I was just before the call, we were saying, you know, has my mind's been racing this week. And last night I just put my palm here, and I do this a lot. I think it's something from childhood with myself. I put my palm here and my hand on my heart, and I just imagine some light going from my head to my heart and back up, and like this circular motion, and that regulates me straight away. You know,
Mm.
I can start thinking again, but I'm like, okay, it's bringing me down, you know, rather than in this state of the mind just wandering constantly.
Mm.
So I suppose it's such a big topic that, and the nervous system is, it's everything. The nervous system is everything, you know, it's how we operate all of the time. And that
Mm.
the goal is to have it, you know, a balance that's, you know, tolerable to
Mm.
the individual.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So you're very cool and calm. I'm looking at you there and you're making me feel good. You know, you're a cool, calm kind of dude. You are though, Siobhan. You are. You got a cool vibe. You have. And it just, you know, I can see how in a therapeutic environment, I can definitely see how you would definitely help to relax somebody and make them feel just, as you said, just to be and to actually breathe. And like that in itself is the beginning. You see, even though you're doing it and you're saying it and you
Mm.
are it, but for the
Mm.
person that walks in, they've never done that.
Well, this is the
And
thing.
you know, for them, it's just about getting from there to there for the first bit. But you
Mm.
know, yeah, it's so
But,
important, isn't it? Technology, that there's so many ways that you
but
could be in the world. There are so many ways.
And thank you for that, Kath. That's really nice. But also, like, I have had clients that we start singing, we start dancing. Like, there's so many, and always things. What I like to do with people is what they enjoy. I can't do something with someone that they're not going to practice, or they
Mm.
won't. You know, it's good to try hard things, and but you kind of get a feel for what feels good for you. Like I've tried, Jesus Christ, I'd be lying now if I said I hadn't tried much. I've tried all different types of things, but I love music. I love, you know, singing, and that regulates me straight away. I could put on a soundtrack. I could start crying. I could start jigging around the living room, you know, like, and I do that with clients as well. I'm like, okay, we'll put that on, and it's all individual, you know. So some people might just want to breathe. Some people like a state that you're like, okay, I'm back to a tolerable window now, you know,
Mm.
that I
Mm.
can manage in. So everyone's different, but it's such a it's good to, when I'm working with other people as well, it's just good to invite them to know what makes them feel that. You know, like what, you know, like from, I'm just talking, I'll sorry for myself. When I hear music, I can start like
Yeah.
that brings me up, right? And when I need a bit more reflection, let's say, I'll do some meditation. And I do that every day anyway, but I can also go too into myself. So I need to kind of expel the energy, whether it be a run, whether it be
Mm.
dancing, and figuring out what works for somebody is the most important thing, because you know that's why there's so many different modalities out there, because there's so much to explore and learn more about yourself by doing that too,
Sure. I 100% agree
you
with you.
know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. I think it's important. Yeah.
And sure, you love a dance, don't you, Kathy?
Oh, I was dancing this morning.
See,
Yes.
even as I say that now, there's an instant lift on
I
your face.
And you know, I'm on my own this morning because I normally have Neil, and Neil, my husband, is always knocking around, or he's just going out or coming in, or vice versa, or whatever. But at the moment, he's busy. He's in Dublin. He's working in Dublin at the moment, so he's gone very early. And I don't miss him at all, because do you know what? It's just lovely to have the place all to myself. And I said to him
Sure.
that this is a commitment he's made on a particular little project he's doing. And
Mm.
I said to him, don't contact me now. You go away and do your own thing and have a lovely time on your own. He goes up on the train. He's home every evening for his dinner, like. But
Yeah.
the point I'm making is that it's just, there's a kind of a space to
Yeah.
just be.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
I'm going to share with you this morning. I was going to my supervisor today, which I love going to. I love my supervisor. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant therapist. And I just love music, right? So I put on a bit of music and I danced my heart out, and I recorded it and I shared it in my stories, you know.
Oh, good woman.
I did, because it's good for people to see that you can do that. You don't have
Mm.
to apologize for movement, because it's great release.
Hmm.
And I'll share a quick little story now. I don't want it to be all about me either, but this is just a story that I read. I read this particular article written by a woman of 70. She said, I had a wonderful life. I've had great kids, a good husband, and a lovely career. But she said, I just celebrated my 70th birthday. And she said, and I think this is something that you've just brought up, and this is the way I'm going to say it. She said, I can honestly say, she said, that I can't remember when I had joy last. Because she said, even though you could say I was happy, but my happiness was always according to ticking the box, getting the mortgage paid, rearing the kids, doing the job, cooking the dinner, getting the shopping, all the normal things, but they were doing. And she said, I've never really stepped into the moments of joy fully. So she said, here I was at 70, sitting at my own birthday party, watching everybody enjoying themselves, having a bit of fun. And I thought, I didn't really experience joy. So for you, it's about the moments of joy. Like for me this morning, it was the dance. And I thought I would go on to record this because I feel so good. It was joyful. I wasn't thinking, Neil's out there in the kitchen, he's watching something about Trump. I just wanted to be totally free of all that because I don't listen to any of that.
Yeah.
About myself and all that. So it's about expressing joy too and allowing the space for joy, isn't it?
100%. I love that, Kathy. Yeah, it's 100% about that. But it's what there's so many things like that people won't do because like, oh, I can't do that. Like even with yoga, for example, anybody can do yoga, but there's an idea that you have to be flexible, you have to be this. No, yoga can just be sitting down and breathing, but people think that they can't do some, oh, I wouldn't be a dancer now. It's like they have to be the best at something. Everybody can move. It's like I love singing as well. Like singing.
Yeah.
When I sing, I think of nothing else apart from the tune or the words. But people are like, oh God, I could never sing. I'm like, everybody can sing. You might not be in tune,
Yeah.
granted, but everybody can sing. And the sound is the most highest form of connection because it's fantastic. So I do get people to do humming breath. So you breathe in and then you breathe out, but you hum with it. So I'll show you now. You go, and there's a vibration that comes with that, and it's the most relaxing thing. So like it's finding, now that might not bring you a lot of joy, let's say, but putting on and dancing and just letting go, and you might start giggling. Like I'd be cracking up laughing. The dog would be there looking up at me, staring at him, like dancing with the dog. But I'd be cracking up laughing. I'm like, this is having a great old time with myself. But people wouldn't do it as much because they're like, oh God, I've lost the plot. And maybe I have lost the plot. But it brings me joy.
Yeah.
Brings me so much joy.
Well, it's releasing a lot of, the body's moving, flowing. It's
Yeah.
flowing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's just the movement is flowing. And when you mentioned about the humming sound, like that vibration straight away, like you feel connected to your body,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yours as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's super, super helpful anyway, I find.
Allowing it, Siobhan. Allowing.
Absolutely. And trying new things, like people like, oh, like I said there, oh no, I wouldn't do that now, or I can't do that. And maybe there's an element of fear there, or scared to put themselves out there or try something new. But you discover so much about yourself as well when you do. And there's a confidence that comes with that because you've tried it. It might not be for you. I'm not saying everyone should go out and start a dance class, but
I suppose it's the allowing because, as you said there, you've mentioned it a couple of times there in the last few minutes about like people don't allow themselves to dance because they're not good enough, or they don't allow themselves to sing because they were told you've no voice. You know what I mean? So they don't, somebody at some stage maybe said that or whatever.
Yeah.
To allow, this has come back now to the intention, the awareness, and the allowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else can be. I've kind of drawn a blank.
No, I mean, it's just, I suppose we're both sort of just thinking about it, really.
Yeah. We can do another podcast about ways that people try and regulate that are unhealthy ways, let's say, of regulating.
I think we've all done the unhealthy things at different times in our
Oh,
life.
Christ, I could write.
It's all age appropriate or age related as well. Do you know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest, certain things at certain age, 20, 30, they're acceptable, even though they're actually unhealthy. But they're part of what's going on. Everybody's doing it, so you do. Do you know what I mean? It might be something that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is it's a different time in your life, different phases, different times.
Yeah. It's really
I tell now, I was watching, I don't know, I'm always on about Richard Hogan. She's the men will be afraid of him if he sees me come. But
start,
great.
start a fan base.
I think he's brilliant. But
Ah,
he
he's
did
great.
a podcast, the chat with Brendan O'Connor on RT recently about guilt and shame.
Mm,
I thought it was fantastic, really fantastic. And he said, he said, I still blush every now and then. He said, when I think about myself in UCC years ago, he was going to UCC, for his degree or whatever. He said, I still redden up. I'm just sitting there having a chat with somebody, my head will go as red because I remember the embarrassing things that happened. So it's all age appropriate. And the great thing that he said about guilt around, because I'm just bringing this into it, because this can also dysregulate your memory of, oh my God, if they only
completely.
knew. Ah!
Completely
Yeah.
froze, almost froze moment. If you're
Yes.
speaking to someone and going red, you're not even with the person, you're thinking, so you're completely dissociated in that moment. It's a
Yes.
horrific feeling.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But what he was saying about guilt, he said, is it's actually quite a useful thing because, he said when you do something and you feel guilty about it, you won't go back and do it again. You really won't, like, because the pain, it's just too heavy a pain to carry to do that. But he said shame is different. Shame is really toxic.
Yeah.
So, I
Shame.
mean, sometimes we think, I feel so guilty. Is it
Yeah.
shame or is it guilt?
Yeah.
Because talking about guilt being quite useful, I mean, we don't go back. Like, for example, like I mentioned earlier on there, that when we were much younger, in early 20s, like 20s, late 20s, it was all about the weekend and going off and going cracked. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
We wouldn't do that now in a fit. Like my husband is 70, I'm coming up 68. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have the energy for it. So it's about looking back and saying there is no guilt in that. That was then, this is now. And that
yeah.
regulates you because sometimes you can get dysregulated, as you said, almost disassociate and remembering things from 20 years ago, 30 years ago that are still stuck in your body. Do you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it depends on the context too, because we're all learning and growing,
Yeah.
especially when I think of my like late teens, early 20s. You're discovering you're
Yeah.
figuring things out. But then also then if you're drinking, that's different. So it depends on the context, or if there's something that happens in school that you think, oh, so it depends what you're talking about. But the shame part especially is the hardest thing to deal with. And we both know what it feels like to have that. I remember even, I
So,
think I shared this with you before, or maybe we've spoken about it on the podcast with school. So, and people would be like, oh, what did you get for your points? What points did you get? And I could feel
I know.
the body. Oh my God. I'd go
Oh,
a bit
Ron.
like Richard now. I'd go, my heart would start and I'd start going red. And by God, I became a champion at changing the subject. I'd be like, oh, and I used to feel that shame if they knew, and like, even in relationships, I didn't tell people for years later because I'd be so embarrassed. And
I
yet, on the flip side of that, I've
know.
come so far because of that. You know what
Of
I mean? In
course.
terms of like, it helped me in so many ways because I pushed myself in stuff that I actually really enjoyed to do. But yeah, the feeling, oh my God. And that was with me for years and still comes up at times, like I'm not good enough and Christ, they'll think I'm stupid and all of that can play out. But that same physical feeling of hot and red and Jesus Christ, it's not nice. I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in to episode 7 of The Two Coaches on One Couch. We got cut off, and I just wanted to wrap it up and say thank you for anybody who tuned in and listened to the episodes. And also, if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out with anything that they'd like some advice on, please do get in touch. And you can contact us on siobhanwalshcoaching@gmail.com or Kathy O'Reilly Coaching@gmail.com. And also our Instagrams are Kathy O'Reilly Coaching and Siobhan Walsh Coaching. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time for Two Coaches on One Couch for episode 8. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.